Almost all of us have dealt with at some point. We're talking about acne, and you might be surprised to learn its global impact is way bigger than you think.
So, to put things in perspective, let's start with a little pop quiz. Think about all the diseases out there. What do you think is the 8th most common one on the entire planet?
The answer is a condition that affects a whopping 633 million people around the globe. I mean, that is a massive number, bigger than the entire population of North America.
That's right, the answer is acne vulgaris. And with that many people affected, it's pretty clear this is way more than just a minor teenage annoyance. It's a global health issue with a huge footprint.
Okay, so we know it's incredibly common, but what is acne really? What's happening on a biological level? Let's take a closer look.
At its most basic level, acne is a chronic disease of something called the pilosebaceous unit. Now that's just a fancy technical term for a hair follicle and the little oil gland that's attached to it. When that whole system gets clogged up, well, that's when the trouble starts.
But just saying it's a clog is only the beginning of the story. To really get it, we need to zoom in and look at the chain reaction that takes a perfectly healthy pore and turns it into an inflamed pimple.
Think of it as a 4-step process, almost like a tiny biological traffic jam happening inside your pores. First, your glands start producing way too much oil, or sebum. That extra oil then acts like glue for dead skin cells, and together they form a plug. That plug, called a comedo, seals off the follicle, and now you've got this sealed-off, oily environment that is the absolute perfect breeding ground for bacteria. And that bacterial party is what triggers the inflammation, the redness and swelling we all recognize as a pimple.
So what kicks off this whole chain reaction in the first place? You know, it's way more complex than just blaming chocolate or not washing your face enough. The real causes are a mix of powerful factors happening inside your body.
And the single biggest factor might actually blow your mind. It's your DNA. Yep, research shows that genetics account for a staggering 81% of the reason some people get acne and others don't. And that is huge, because it completely reframes acne not as some kind of hygiene problem, but as an inherited predisposition that we can learn to manage.
Okay, so beyond your genes, hormones are the next major player. Hormones called androgens, which spike during puberty for everyone, basically tell your oil glands to get bigger and pump out more oil. This creates that perfect environment for a specific bacterium, Cutibacterium acnes, to just thrive. Now, things like diet and stress are still being studied, but there's growing evidence that high glycemic foods, think sugary stuff, can make acne worse for some people.
And knowing these real causes helps us bust some pretty persistent myths. Let's be crystal clear. The science shows that acne has nothing to do with being dirty. In fact, if you scrub your face too hard, you can just irritate the skin and make things worse. And that idea that sunlight helps? Well, a tan might temporarily hide some redness, but sun exposure is definitely not a recommended treatment, and it causes long-term skin damage. All right, so we've got the causes down, we've busted the myths. Now what do we actually do about it? Let's talk about the modern treatment playbook.
The key thing to understand here is that modern treatments are super strategic. They're not just about zapping one pimple. The real goal is to interrupt that 4-step process we talked about earlier, whether it's by cutting down on oil, helping skin cells shed properly, taking out the bacteria, or just calming down the inflammation.
These strategies usually fall into 3 main buckets, and each one tackles the problem from a different angle. You've got topicals, like creams with benzoyl peroxide or retinoids, that you put right on the skin to fight bacteria and unclog pores. For more serious cases, there are oral medications like antibiotics or isotretinoin that work from the inside out. And for some women, hormonal treatments can go right to the source and target those androgens that started the whole oil production party in the first place.
And because the potential for long-term physical and emotional damage is so real, many dermatologists now say, let's treat this early and effectively. It's much better than just waiting around and hoping it goes away on its own.
And that brings us to our final point, and honestly, it might be the most important one. The effects of acne go way beyond what you see on the surface of the skin. This quote from our source material really hits hard, and it's a powerful reminder of the serious psychological toll this condition can take. There is solid evidence that links acne to a higher risk of developing anxiety and depression.
A huge reason for that emotional burden: permanent scarring. It's estimated that up to 95% of people with acne end up with some kind of physical scarring, which can be a daily, lifelong reminder of the condition.
So, all of this leaves us with a final thought to chew on.
Since we know that acne is this really unique mix of our genes, our hormones, and our environment, maybe the future of acne care isn't about finding one single magic bullet for everyone. Maybe it's about creating a deeply personal strategy, one that's tailored to interrupt each person's unique path to a breakout.